are proposed to go on with the Jordanelle with respects to the RSPA and MIDA areas. I went back a little bit. The county's been very interested since the mid-1990s to promote development in the Jordanelle for recreational purposes. There was a lot of work that went on with Planning Commission and meeting with people in the county and communities, and recreation development for hotels and things like that was at the top of the list, and so the county did respond to that and created the Jordanelle Basin Overlay Zone, JBOZ. That's the acronym that has been used for many, many years. That was done in the mid-90s. And essentially what that did was looked at the whole area in the Jordanelle Basin and said we're going to offer some incentives for development in the way of densities and so forth, to have open space and different things that are associated with that zone. At the same time, in order to facilitate that, the JSSD was formed because none of this could have happened without water or sewer. And so the JSSD and the county supported $80 million worth of bonding. It may be pushing $100 million by the next couple of years, but because there's some additionals that may be up in there. But that never would have happened without county support. And frankly, it probably wouldn't happen now after we've gone through what we've gone through the last few years with some of the defaults and some of the bonds up there that the counties had to have some responsibility for. So it was somewhat opportunistic there. The fire station had to be built to allow for the densities and the types of resort communities that were done up there. Another $5 million bond and full-time firefighters. Well, this was in place for several years, and then starting just after the Olympics, the idea of maybe enhancing what could be done up in the Jordanelle would be looked at. And so up until 2006, what was called the RSPA, which is Recreational Specially Planned Area, was presented. This was a unique concept in that it was an enhancement to the JBOZ zoning, which would allow for further development if some things were done, both on the code development side and for enhancements and priorities of enhancements. And everything I wanted to talk about today, I want to do in kind of general terms. I want to get too detailed on anything, because any one of these subjects we can talk for hours, and we don't have hours. But the RSPA, in essence, relied on the owners, the land owners, to come up with plans that would provide owner paid for enhancements, and then they get density and there'll be villages built and some things, and the control, a lot of the control would be within the ownership of the properties themselves. And the county would just kind of, to a degree, sit back and watch it happen. I mean, we had the codes in place, and so there would be code enforcement and those types of things, but it was up to the owners, the landowners. Only 4 of the landowners in 2006 signed up into this, and that was both good, but it also created a problem. The number 1 and number 2 priorities of enhancements that these 4 landowners would then do would be the Jordanelle Parkway and the portal, which would go under the Highway 40 from near the fire station in that area over to where the gondola Deer Crest is. And those were the number 1 and number 2 priorities. So they would pay for that in their for getting some enhanced densities and programs. That's a very simplistic look at that. Well, another opportunity came along 3 years ago, and the county was approached from MIDA, and the opportunity there was that through involvement of this state entity, we would bring a military installation, and it would offer some creative ways to use tax incentives. And if the county were willing, the county being the one that would give back the taxes, when you do a tax incentive issue, it's taxes that would have come to the county. Okay, we'll forego that, we'll give it back. And to do that, the county looked at that and said, you know, this could be a great idea because it could jumpstart this whole thing. Here we were over 10 years into the process and we didn't have a lot developed up there. We had some residential developed and some other things, but here was maybe an opportunity to jumpstart the thing and get a little more commercial and the type of development we really wanted to happen. And so the county said, we'll take a chance on this, but the caveat is we'll be in charge if this is going to happen. Now, in working with MIDA, we couldn't be totally in charge because they have to be in charge of some of it. So the military installation they have to be in charge of, and there was one other property that came in right at the beginning of the Blue Ledge that came under their control as well. So they're all kind of in charge of that, and then at the end, any other properties, the county will be in charge of. And we agreed to that, understanding that we would now kind of drive the bus. Instead of, as in the R-Spa, the property owners would drive the bus. Major difference. The county's very interested in maintaining a lot of the R-Spa aspects. The development codes and so forth are very important to the county. We felt they're very important, but our priorities are very different than what the R-Spa came up with. And our number one priority for the county is to enhance skiing at Deer Valley. We feel that is the best opportunity for the county to enhance economic development and utilize what would be the best growth for the county. So we got with Deer Valley. Where's Bob? There you are. Do you want? We asked them. It'd been talked back and forth about a ski plan for this area. Do you want to talk about it for just a minute and kind of tell what kind of went on and where we're at right at the moment?
We, as Mike very accurately described, we saw an opportunity with MIDA and with the Air Force to look at an opportunity here that doesn't come around very often. So I'm working with Wasatch County. We, on the Deer Valley side of Highway 40, there's basically 4 landowners. We got all 4 landowners together. We agreed that we would all participate in a master plan that we mutually funded. And we took a rather unique concept here in that we contracted with a company called SE Group that has been doing our master planning in Deer Valley since inception, 34 years. The charge to SE Group was to take a look at the property, take a look at Deer Valley Resort, and not to pay any attention to property boundaries, to master plan that whole area so that it could have the best possible ski circulation for that whole area. That's a pretty unique concept in and of itself. And then the other thing that we had was after the ski plan was done, and we knew what the best possible ski circulation would be, then we would then overlay property boundaries and take a look at who had what, who had some possible development, who had the parking lot, and then we would all play pretty well in the same ones. So that's what we have now. We have a master plan that SE Group has given us. I think we even have a, there it is right there. Lots of lines. But very simply, the red lines are new lifts. The ski runs that are whiter are new ski runs. The black lines are existing lifts, nothing to do with that. And the gray shaded runs are existing ski runs. So now, where we are in that process is, I think all the property owners have looked at this, have submitted a couple of comments here and there, and conversations with a couple of county commissioners. would like to have a bit of flexibility here, not necessarily at the bottom where the lifts would be and where the development would be, but more up on the mountain where the top of the lifts are. We might have to move the ski run or two, but it wouldn't be all that dramatic. But that's pretty much where we are right now. To say that we're excited about this, we can't understand. It gives us the ability to have another ingress-egress from Highway 40. If anybody's skied at the valley, this is the bottom gondola area. To say that we are challenged on windy days there would be an understatement with the gondola. And with this plan, those two major lifts coming out, which is this one and being vertically challenged, it's up there, is the other detachable quad.
We're in the 21st century.
So this is a detachable quad that goes up. This is nose that's just about the bottom of Sultan Lift, which is one of our major ski lifts. So detachable quad goes up to the nose up here. If we can get skiers up there, we can go over the Mayflower, we can ski down to Sultan. This is the area where we still do need a little bit of flexibility. This plan works pretty well, but we would like to think that we can have an even better plan for the scooch one of these lifts a little bit. But the advantage of these two lifts over this lift from a ski area standpoint is that with the Jordanelle gondola, we do have ingress-egress off of Highway 40 in Wasatch County. The downside to that is that in order to get from here to the rest of the ski area, skiers have to come down through Snowbird, which is already our biggest constriction point in the entire ski area. With these two lifts, it brings ski access right up into the lift system, and from here we have plenty of lift capacity to bring the skiers that would start their day down here, up into Bald Mountain, over into Flagstaff, and there's a whole other area over here called Empire. But it is really, really effective. The skiing that this brings to the resort is a very nice combination of green or beginner runs, intermediate runs. There's some blade skiing down here that is absolutely to die for. So the terrain is good. Lift systems are good. Challenges would be snowmaking because of the elevation and the exposure. All these runs would need to be 100% under snowmaking, which requires some water. We're working through that. But I think that I truly believe that they are all opportunities and situations of Mike, is that okay?
That's perfect. I think that's exactly what we wanted to kind of stress. And to get to this point right here, with this draft plan, even though there's going to be some changes and some things, is a monumental step for both of us. It can't be, we couldn't overstate that. It's not possible.
And Mike, if I may, I'd like to thank you and the rest of the council for your support. It's a
Everything the county, what's incredibly important to the county is that anything that's done that we can now control and have say will only enhance this ski opportunity. We will not do anything that will be detrimental to this. We've pretty well set that standard, and so we're very cognizant of it, and we're listening to those that are telling us that know how to do this. This is what we need to do. So that's our driving point now. So the unfortunate thing is, once we have this plan, this has opened up a whole new realm of what we have to do now to take the next steps. Okay?